Well, hello and good morning again, friends. Welcome back to another Firepit conversation. Richard here, and I'm just thankful to be back, be able to share a little more with you this week. And I pray everybody's doing well. I pray everybody's having a good week. That you and your family are staying healthy, and you're staying safe, and everything, and in light of everything that's going on in this world. And there's a lot we're contending with. There's a lot we're having to manage through, and a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear, and it makes you really wonder what really is at play and what really is going on in this world right now. And it's so wild to sit here and watch and contemplate. And friends, it is so taxing on the soul. It's so taxing on the soul to contend and deal with and absorb everything that we're having to deal with in our daily lives, and that we see thrown at us in the news media, that we see thrown at us in social media, and all of that. And it's so much to take, and it's and I don't know about you, I don't know how much more my soul can absorb. You know, my wife and I were talking about that last night, of just how much we're having to contend with, and how much we're having to see. And I've said this before in past videos, that the soul was not meant to take in so much. And when we're bombarded with fear-based reporting, with so much evil and chaos and violence and all that's going on, and so much more around us, even the not so bad, but just so much just stuff that's going on around us in this world, and it's right there at our fingertips. It's right there where we can see it, and little things like local news outlet reporting on what was going on up in Illinois about something, and not even going to get into what the story was, but it's these kind of things. And really, honestly, it's a story that was irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. And why are we so obsessed with everything that's going on all over the place? Before all this, before all the social media, before all of the 24-hour news world that we live in now, there was you really had, with some exceptions, with what your newspapers would have about what was going on in the outside world, your soul really was enamored with what was going on within your local community, and that was enough. And now we are just bombarded with so much, and we can't. It's so much to take, and it weighs on you when you're seeing so much, and you don't know. And as a believer and as a follower of Christ, at what point and where's the line drawn? At what point do you say enough's enough? At what point do you speak out? Do you take action? Where is all those lines? We have a lot of questions we have to ask ourselves as believers, and it's hard. My brother and I were talking about that a couple weeks ago, of where where believers should stand, and where believers should really should step in and take action amidst everything, because there's a lot of threats going on against people that we're seeing, and so much of it is unwarranted, unneeded, but it's just got evil in the midst of it all. And I'll tell you right now that I, like many of my brothers, will defend our homes and our families as much as needed. But I can't walk around my daily life sitting and soaking in fear and worry about what's going to happen. Am I going to get sick? Am I not going to get sick? Is my family members going to get sick or not get sick? And I can't sit here and be enamored with all that fear and worry. And if you're truly, and you can question me on this, and don't care. I really don't care. If you truly call yourself a believer, a follower of Christ, and one that truly trusts in the holiness and the goodness of God and all of that, where do you draw the line with living in fear, bottled up in your home, and away from everything, and where do you get back out and begin and allow yourself to live life to the fullness as you were meant to live? And I saw somebody post something. I think it was yesterday. Says something about that. Even Jesus would wear a mask. Really? Where in the world does that come from? You know, it's all of this crazy fear, misinformation, and misguided truths, and it tells you a lot when all the information is split along political lines. That tells you a lot about the truth of and what's really going on here. And I'm not going to get into all the politics and all that here. That's not what I'm here for. That's not what I do these videos for. But it tells you a lot, and it makes you really have to question in your heart and in your mind of what is really going on. And are you going to sit here in fear and worry? Or are you going to allow yourself to just trust in the goodness of God, no matter what happens, and live the life that you were meant to live? Live and begin pursuing the abundant life with God. That's not sitting in fear. And you know, that's the way I see it. If you're walking around fearful every day of who's going to get sick and who's not going to get sick, where does that end? Where does any of this end? Where do we get rid of? At what point does the line stop? Because there's a surge here, there's not a surge here. The mask does help, the mask doesn't help. Where is the line going to be drawn to say, okay, it's now safe? Because who's to say the next virus, the next strain of any virus, a flu virus or whatever it is comes along, and you know, and then we're sitting back in fearful again. So I don't know. And I digress on that, friends. I don't want to be stuck on that forever, but that's just there's so much and that's embedded in all that, and that really just it's frustrating, but it goes again to show just how much this world, this life, the way it is right now, with everything that's thrown at us, takes just so much of our soul, so much of our hearts, and it's hard, and it's hard to really just find the space and room in there to just to breathe, to really just stop and take a breath and say, okay, Lord, I trust in you, and I know this is going to be okay. I know that we're going to be fine, because in the end, my trust is in you. My hope isn't in a mask. My hope isn't in a vaccine. My hope isn't in anything else in this world. My hope only relies on the truth of who God is, and in the promises of God. And that's it. And the coming of the kingdom of God. And that's the only place I can land on. That's the only place I live in, and I refuse to live otherwise. And my family refuses to live otherwise. And that's just the way we are. We don't sit here living in fear. So anyway, I just really wanted to share that, knocking some ants off my feet real quick. And really what I want to get at today is, you know, and it kind of all relates, you know, because in the midst of everything that we're contending with, you know, how do we seek God's guidance in all this? You know, how do you find yourself really just spending time and really seeking God to really ask, well, what is He up to? What does He want you to do in the midst of all this? Maybe, you know, maybe what's next in your life? Maybe you are dealing with a job loss because of this, because of the shutdowns we're dealing with. and many of my former colleagues that are contending with that right now, and there's a lot of uncertainty what's happening with them, um, and there's so many more. But so what is next? How do we seek God's guidance? How do we begin to seek? Maybe it's, where do I need to speak up? Where's the battle I need to take on in the midst of all of this? Where do I need to step in? And how are you seeking God's guidance in all of that? Maybe how do I lead my family through this? And I was reading through something this morning, in my devotional this morning, and it hit me and just kind of really brought me back to the place that I had lived in for 8 months of the last year, of a lot of uncertainty following a job loss in my own, personally, what that was going to look like, where God was going to lead us and lead me and my family, and what was He wanting me to do. I didn't know. And I found myself in a position where I knew I couldn't and didn't want to force an answer to that. And there was a lot working at me within me that said, how much longer do you wait? How much longer do you wait for an answer? And it comes back to the point of realizing that, God doesn't answer on my timeline. But I have to continue to stay in a posture of being able to receive and listen and walk with Him and hear what He's wanting to say to me and everything. So I'm actually going to read a little bit this morning. This is from this devotional that I'm reading through, the Restoration Year, from John Eldredge, and it's taken a compilation of over the course of a year of a lot of his different writings, and that's the book, by the way. I definitely would recommend going through this. I'm going through this for the second year, and because it's good. It's good reminders in a lot of ways of the posture to take in life, and from prayer to seeking union with God, and so many other things. So, and this morning's Devo was really just all about praying for guidance, and what that is, and what that looks like in your life. And if you want to learn more about that, I would highly recommend his book, Moving Mountains. It's a book that's just purely just aligned with prayer, with consecration, and what real prayer can look like in your life, and building a real conversational intimacy and relationship with God through that. And he writes that when you're praying for guidance, first you need to reduce any pressure. Pressure nearly always gets in the way of hearing from God. Drama never helps. Stress never helps. Give it some breathing room and take a deep breath yourself. That was the hardest thing for me to even walk into, was just being able to remove the pressure to have an answer come of what was I supposed to do next, and the stress of the uncertainty and all that. And there was a lot of pressure that was building, but I really had to learn to build a posture of letting go of all of that pressure, of releasing all that to Jesus, and not letting that get in the way of trying to hear what God was trying to say. And second, be open to whatever it may be that God has to say to you. If you are in truth only open to hearing one answer from God, then it's not likely you will hear anything at all. More sadly, if you do hear a yes, you won't trust it. Surrender is the key. Yield your desires and plans to the living God so that you'll receive His counsel. Consecrate the matter and process of decision making. And friends, that's just that is so huge, because I think the easy temptation, because the desires and the biggest desires of my heart right now, other than just growing in my faith and union with God and leading my family well, is really cultivating this mission of really further going after the hearts of men and their families, and seeing men really come alive in their faith and their walk and the way they choose to live and the way they lead their families and their kingdoms, their small K kingdoms, and how they really step into that life. So when my job disappears last fall, what am I doing? Okay, God, is this the time to go back into to really step into full vocational ministry and to really go after that? And that was the immediate kind of tug, right? Because I know that's where my heart is. That's where I feel my life mission is, really stepping into that. But God really put the brakes on that and said, and really had to slow me down and say, hey, yes, that's the mission. Continue pressing that mission, but it's not time yet to go full bore into it. And it wasn't the answer that I wanted, right? But I had to trust what was going on. And if I was so stuck on just hearing one answer, then I wasn't going to get anywhere with any of that. And so that was a big thing. Third, don't fill in the blanks. Do not spend half your energy trying to figure it out while you are giving the other half to seeking God. Far better to live with uncertainty for a while than to be your own counselor. And that's a big thing, because it's so easy for us. We want to have answers. We're an answers-driven culture. We're an answers-driven race of people. It's just what we want things. We want to know what's going to happen. We want to know what we need to do. We want to be able to be firm in that our decisions are based on really firm guidance and data and all of that. And but we have to learn to live with uncertainty, and that's another thing that I'm really learning to live in now, is just being able to be uncertain and not knowing fully what may be next, and how things are going to play out. And I had to stop trying to fill in any blanks, and that's what we have to be able to do. And finally, give it some time. If you feel you're receiving counsel, guidance, and direction from the Holy Spirit, then ask for confirmation. Confirmation will give you a settled assurance that you are in fact following God's will. And that's another big thing, of seeking God out and for confirmation, and just asking the Holy Spirit to really speak and confirm where He is guiding and where He is leading. And at the same time, if we're truly going to trust where God is leading us, what God is wanting us to do, and what He's trying to speak into our hearts, then we have to be willing to step into that, and again, be okay with uncertainty, and be okay that what you step into and what you do is not always going to be the popular answer. It's not always going to be the one that everyone accepts and receives and says, yes, that's the right way to go. Because oftentimes, it's not every time, but oftentimes that decisions you make, even if you feel God's leading you in it, the people around you may not look at it the same way. So how do you respond to that? Okay, if you truly trust, truly trust in God and truly trust in His guidance, then you're okay with that. You have to be okay with that. You have to be okay that the world isn't going to agree with what you say and what you decide and the direction that you decide to take. But if you stay firm and grounded in the truths of God and how He's speaking into you, and you're truly seeking Him out with an open heart and mind, then you can stand on the truth of that and not be tied and worried about what everyone else is going to think and say and do around you. So that's it. That's where I am this week. I spent half this time, I know, talking about what's going on around us, but really it all boils back, a lot of it boils back to, okay, with everything that's happening, how are we going to allow God to guide our lives? And how are we really consecrating ourselves to truly hearing what He's trying to say and truly allowing Him to speak into our lives? Because we need that. We need to be able to stay in that place of seeking God's guidance, of seeking God's will, and seeking His direction for every aspect of our lives. Because He wants to walk there with you. He wants to write this story out with you, but you have to allow Him to. You really have to allow Him to really step into that and really write that with you. So that's it. That's all I have this week, friends. So I pray this offers some help, some encouragement for you, and that as you step into your daily life of walking with the Lord and really trying to build conversational relationship with Him, that you really are knowing that you can seek His guidance, that you don't have to force answers, that you can be okay with whatever it is that He has to say, and learning to be patient and allowing Him to work in His time, not yours. His time is not, because trust me, it doesn't work when you try to do it in your time. So thank you for joining me again this week, friends, and I look forward to seeing you again next time on another Firepit Conversation. I'll see you next week. So take care. God bless.